Hi, I'm Philip Bliss, and I'm a business visionary. I want to introduce to you Stop, Think, Focus, and Execute, a process that I've learned that can let you achieve things that you don't think are possible. And to do that, I want to introduce you to some leaders that will show you how they've gone through this process and achieved things that you just wouldn't believe. The first of those leaders I want to introduce you to is Julian Bolster, a good friend of mine, and he's got some tremendous insights into this. So, Julian, give me a moment when you stopped, you thought, you focused, you executed.
The moment that comes to mind for me, probably the sort of preemptive moment. When I was 18, I was hit by that drunk driver and I broke my neck. And I was in the hospital, and all of these top doctors had declared that I was going to be dependent on my parents for the rest of my life, and that I would never kind of get out of that wheelchair. I remember I had this nurse in the neurosurgical ICU ward, mean woman, and she came along one day and she said, "I'm sick and tired of you being sick and tired for yourself." And she wheeled me down the hall and into this room and left me. And there was this young man standing at the window of that room. A year and a half prior, he had been in a really bad accident and ended up breaking, I think, pretty much every bone in his body, and had gone through, a dozen plus operations to sort of put himself back together. Seeing him, I got this idea that I get to choose what my life is going to be. And in that moment, I stopped.
So you stopped.
Yeah.
So you got to that room and you saw a guy that was walking.
Worse off than me.
How did your thought process emerge from that?
The thinking for me was, I'm going to have to man up, and I'm going to have to choose what I want things to be. Not playing off of other people's programs, but coming up with one of my own.
You thought your way through disability. What was the focus? How did you make the leap out of the chair?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. When you're in a position like that, there's just way too many things to conceive of in terms of what's ahead of you. It can very easily, very quickly become so overwhelming that it is disabling. So I just decided, well, fuck it. I'm just going to focus on the next 3 weeks. So
was that the reason for your success? Keeping to 3-4 week objectives?
Yeah, I couldn't think the next 3-4 years out. It's too big. So what you have to do is you have to break the mountain up into like 20 pieces, and you just focus on that one small piece ahead of you.
So bring it back to you leaping out of the wheelchair.
Wasn't quite a leap.
I know, I'm just kidding.
But I love that that's how it impacts people.
Obviously, it took grind to get out of the wheelchair and a lot of courage. But what did you achieve?
Yeah.
Tell us about the end of that cycle of stop, think, focus, execute. When did you say, holy shit, look at me?
Well, I think when I got discharged months and months and months earlier than I was supposed to, that's when I was like, okay, wow, I can really turn this thing around.
It's a great story. I can tell everyone he walks very well now. And tell us a bit more about a business environment as an entrepreneur, which you are. And I want to know that day that you went to the office and you just stopped. Just like, I don't want to fucking do this.
For me, it was an SSDD. It's the same shit, different day. And I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, how many more days am I going to have to come in and work real hard in order to get to where I want to be? So I asked myself, if anything were possible in this moment, what would I do? And I came up with this crazy idea.
If you can achieve it, nothing's crazy.
Right. So I had this crazy idea that I would go up to another competitor in my industry. It was about 10 times my size. And I would say, listen, I can do what you're doing better than you can do it. I want you to give me your company, sell your building, let go of your staff. I'm not going to pay you a dime for it, but I will cut you a check every month for 30% of profits. And of course, everyone I spoke to in terms of my advisors and mentors were like, wow, you're crazy. You can't do that. That's just not how it works.
You mean you didn't meet anybody that said, that's awesome? That's possible?
No, I didn't have a single advisor in my life that thought, yeah, you can make that work.
So were you stupid?
Am I stupid?
No, were you stupid? I mean, you have all these mentors around you telling you That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
I mean, first I bought into their bullshit and I backed away from the idea, but a couple weeks later, I got back on my own bandwagon and I went and knocked on his door.
So Julian, you're very successful. There must have been a time on the way to this success that maybe it didn't seem possible.
There was a time in the midst of my business success, I was engaged to wonderful individual, but just the relationship was not the right relationship to be in, and had ended that relationship. And during that period of time, there was some legal proceedings. That individual was suing me for a whole crap load of money and wouldn't let me sell the house that we owned together. And so financially, it had put a real sort of clamp on me. After staying with my parents in my 30s for a couple of weeks, I was like, whoa, screw that. And my pride got in the way for me. And I essentially lived out of my car for the better part of 11 months.
So where was the stop in that?
I was relating to the situation like it's one that I didn't have power over. So I had a conversation with my lawyer and saying, listen, enough is enough. Let's just get this thing done with.
So you were thinking that?
Yeah.
Not your lawyer?
Not my lawyer. No, me. Enough is enough. Let's just get this thing dealt with. And sure enough, a week later, it was dealt with.
What was the execution?
Well, I guess the execution is I had taken back my life, and it felt like a whole new beginning. It was good.
So, can you summarize stop, think, focus, execute in terms of the possibilities?
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
I live by that somewhat religiously. And the truth is, we all sort of end up ascribing to some bullshit rule book at some point in time, and you just got to throw the rule book out. That's the stop for me. And then you got to think about, well, what do you want your rule book to be? Like, this is your life. Live it by your own rules, right? Not someone else's bullshit. Live it by your own.
Right.
And when you're making those rules up, be bold. Because if you're not going to be bold, you're going to get results that aren't bold. So make up rules that are bold.
That's the think part of it. Okay.
Yeah. And the focus, let's not play out the next 2 years. Let's play out like the next 2 months, right? Like, just not focus on 10 things. Let's focus on 5 and let's fucking own them. Right? Bring that shit to bear. And then the execute was that.
You've taken a lot of people and transformed them. When they followed that rule, when the stop, the think, and the focus were in place, how many of those people achieved the possible?
I hadn't put it into those words, but you follow that framework of stop, think, focus, execute. I think everyone gets results. And the funny thing, or the great thing about life, is you don't always get the results you think you're going to get, but you get results, right? Yeah. And they realize that, wow, if I can go out and get a slightly imperfect result, then what's to stop me from getting a slightly better perfect result, tomorrow or the next day?
So it really is about possibility versus impossibility.
Yeah, I mean, I got to live my life that way. I'm committed to it.
Julian, I just want to thank you for showing people what's possible by stopping, thinking, focusing, and executing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Your stories were terrific.
Thanks, mate.
That's okay. But I promise you a beer, and it's opening time.
Terrific.
So let's get on the road.
All right.
And I'd like to thank the audience for coming out and ask you to stop, think, focus, execute. Achieve what you can. It's all possible. I'm Philip Bliss, and I'll see you next time.